Peter, you might be the first person on this planet that has ever shut me up for this long. Good old Heraclitus, I tell you, that wild and crazy guy.
If I came to you and I gave you $10,000 for 20% of the company,
deal. Yeah. So, is that a verbal?
Younger than us, sorry to say, Joseph.
What, younger than 20?
Joe, we're just trying to help you because clearly you've lost control of the conversation.
I never, you know what? With all due respect, I never had control of the situation. Doesn't mean I'm overgone. What doesn't kill me makes you stronger.
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're insane. You're insane.
Well, are you ready to celebrate? Because today is all about partying and celebrating life. Don't worry, Julie, you're not going to have to do any karaoke, which is, of course, a very familiar and popular party activity and party trick. So you're off the hook on that one. But I hope you are well. It isn't Corona cocktails, but maybe it should be, because it is World Bartender Day. So, treat yourself. Julie's doing that. Treat yourself to your favorite drink, your favorite cocktail. Explore the inner mixologist in you and celebrate World Bartender Day, because unfortunately, right now, most of the bartending is still being done at home. And we also send a little shout out to all the bartenders out there that are just itching to be able to do their Tom Cruise cocktail, shuffle, whatever the hell that move is, where drinks are spun and thrown up in the air, etc., etc. But we hope that we will return to that sooner rather than later. My guest today is Julie Roehm. She is the Chief Marketing and Experience Officer at Party City. I already have a first question for her, which is, I want to understand. I love the CXO, the Chief Experience Officer. We talk about customer experience and customer service, and why is it important that we have even Chief Experience Officers? We will hear from her soon enough. What a week it has been. Oh my God. It has just been a crazy, crazy week here in Corona TV land. Just 2 episodes that are still sitting with me. Rose Cameron, my beautiful Rose, talking about Nori, the passing of her husband only 2 weeks ago, and just hearing about the incredible dynamite, the giant that is Donnie Salazar, and how he is this epitome, this beacon of hope, positivity, and optimism. Today will be a celebration of them, a celebration of Julie, a celebration of life. It is definitely not going to be as heavy as Monday and Tuesday. I'm not sure that I would be able to survive that. Chris Fuller tomorrow, and then finally another wonderful community episode. Brian Solis, Kudubiza, Melanie Diesel, and Bob Norp on Friday. I continue to have fun in the clubhouse, in the club. And I will be doing one of my weekly commitments today, the profit motive, my commitment and connection to the founder, entrepreneurial, startup community, and then Corona TV community goes full on clubhouse on Friday, where we will have the entire after show in the club. So let's do some birthdays. And Judy Glover, a previous guest on the show, a little bit of an extra shout out to you. Andre Dutoy, I believe he is 60 today. Am I allowed to share his age? I just did. Jonathan Boyskin, he was at school with me, so I assume he's turning the big 50. So happy birthday. Life begins at 50. There is no question. And then on LinkedIn, there's Megan Kent, Oksana Jupa, Steve Hutt, Todd Ferguson. Happy birthday to all of you, and have a wonderful day. Well, now it is time to celebrate. Celebrate good times. Come on. It's a celebration. Let's see who is watching, by the way. My mom is here. So she is watching. Hello, Ma. Tom Morris is here. Stephen Rubin is here. I hope he is feeling better post-vaccine. and he is recovering back on his. In fact, when I see him on the after show, he's never really on his 2 feet. So I hope you're slouched and lounged and ready to go. And Adam Lefton is becoming a bit of a regular here. It's party time. You better believe it. So we're going to talk about celebration. I spent this morning in a room on Clubhouse called Positive Energy and Positive Vibes. There wasn't a single person who looked like me in the room, meaning no one had a magenta background. Just kidding. This was probably the best room I've ever been in my life. And I just found myself smiling and feeling so good about myself, my day, and the day ahead. In fact, there were several times I actually laughed out loud, guffawed, if you will. I know it's a little corny, but the saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why they call it the present, really resonated with me today of all days. Today is a good day. Why? Because we have another shot to right the wrongs of yesterday, to turn good into great, to suck a little less, to get to our growing to-do list, to avoid our not to-do list or lean into our to-be list, to celebrate. Yes, it's a day to get those helium-filled balloons at Party City and tie them to your mailboxes. Doesn't have to be a special occasion because today is the special occasion. This has been a particularly heavy week on CoronaTV. Even in discussing death, there was life, the celebration of life, the legacy of a life well lived, the enduring memories that bring smiles to our faces and warmth to our hearts. Even in discussing a difficult and tragic past, there was the ability to celebrate a new path of hope, positivity, and optimism, a path of acceptance, connection, and unconditional love. My takeaway from this morning's room was simple and probably not that profound to you, but I'll repeat it nonetheless. Move to the light. Move away from the darkness. Avoid toxicity. Avoid hustle. Avoid hucksters. Choose life. Choose celebration. And if CoronaTV can be your party every day, then I will gladly, willingly, and humbly accept the ultimate role, responsibility, and title as your host. By the time I left the room, it looked very different, but it sounded the same. So if you ever are in doubt of your greatness, your potential, your worth, your purpose, find it, renew it, and embrace it each and every morning, whether it is in a clubhouse room, through meditation, on CoronaTV, or just in the ability to know that you have breath. I leave you with a quote from the greatest philosopher of the modern era, Jim Carrey in The Mask. It's time to P-A-R-T. Why? Because I gotta. And now it's time to bring on Julie Roehm and a little bit of background on her life and to celebrate her life. Julie is the Chief Marketing and Experience Officer at Party City. Throughout her career, Julie has held leadership positions, challenging and transforming the way organizations think about and engage with their customers. We need more people like her. From the chief storyteller at SAP, reinventing Dodge while CMO at Daimler Chrysler, to transforming marketing as SVP at Walmart. Julie has a track record for innovation, collaboration, and driving great results. And she is my guest today on CoronaTV. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's who knew we could have actually done this together. We probably would have had masks on, but you know, since we're like neighbors.
I know. We are neighbors.
I know, which is crazy. But we don't see anybody, so it's not surprising I haven't actually seen you in person in a long time.
Well, we're seeing each other now.
Yes.
Now, Julie, you have a surprise for me, and I have a surprise for you. So why don't you go first? Because you are guest number 209 in this little adventure, and I think you prepared something which I don't know what it is. I just know a little bit about it.
Yes. So as I was watching yesterday's show, and you were saying, "Oh, Donnie, your guest 208," and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be 209." I wonder if there's any significance to the number 209. So I found this, and when you actually Google what's the significance or the meaning of a number, the first like page of results are this. It's some like angel numbers, which I wasn't really familiar with, but I will tell you what 209 represents. So number 209 meaning the resonance of the numerology energy represented by the number 209 is an association with others. It is kind, inclusive, and diplomatic resonance. 209 energy resonates with teamwork, romance, and companionship. A person living with 209 energy tends to feel as if they are a valued member of a team, one that both supports the person and accepts the person's contribution. Teamwork seems the natural way to get things done. There's a sense of wholeness and infinite potential. The numerology energy represented by the number 209 is a cooperative one. There's acceptance and support of all members of the team. The number 209 reduces to the single digit number 2. The energy represented by the number 2 resonates with, among other aspects, teamwork, relationships, and diplomacy. It contributes the majority of the resonance represented by the number 209. The number 0 energy adds wholeness, inclusiveness, and infinite potential. And the number 9 energy adds humanitarianism, tolerance, and philanthropy. There you go.
I love it. You were meant to be guest number 209, and we were meant to do this together. So Alan Shanza says L'chaim, and I don't know whether that's to 209 or to World Bartender Day. Dean Allen is here, and he said, "Great words, Joe. Good evening from SA." Leslie Laredo says, "It's a good day. I get to listen to Joe's show." Manif is here as well. So now, on the basis of that, I see your 209. And here's what I'm going to raise you. I've decided today's sponsor is going to be you, Julie. You are the first sponsor of your own show. So look at the logo above you now. So exactly. So this show brought to you by Julie. I love the fact that you have your own logo. And of course, it is the same magenta of the show. Well, I believe it's magenta. So today's show brought to you by you.
Yay. Thank you. Well, that's fun. Although, I'd like to tell, I know you like to be about your guests, but I think that this should be equally about you as well, because you are the one who's putting us all together and collecting this joy, which of course is very near and dear to my heart, because we, first of all, I'm lucky to work for a company whose mission is to make joy easy. But literally, there couldn't have been a better time to be working for a company who's dedicated to the pursuit of joy than during a pandemic. And CoronaTV, as through your own words, is dedicated, I don't know if you use the word joy, but is used to the word of celebration and positivity and, finding the meaning.
I love the word joy, actually. And I think there's a difference between happiness and joy. And how awesome is it actually to have a mission statement or have a North Star that is truly about joy?
Yeah, it's again, I've been around a long time. You and I are only 3 months apart in age. And so we both have seen the world, at least from our careers. And I've worked for a lot of amazing companies. None of them had the word joy anywhere in their mission statement, in their purpose or their premise. I'm sure they would have all argued in some way they are trying to deliver that, but literally it is part of our promise. It is our number one premise. We print it on shirts. So it's really fun to know when you're coming and that the message that you give and the work that you do, you start meetings off by talking about, well, is that really going to help to deliver joy to our employees, to our customer? And it's nice because look, we all have to have a day job, at least most of the people I know have to have a day job, but, the joy component is just, it makes it worthwhile. It makes it feel less like work. What was it? Somebody famous was saying, if, the best job in the world is one where it doesn't feel like work. There's some sort of quote about that. And most days it feels like that, because when you can deliver joy, when part of, especially in my world, with customer experience and employee experience and marketing, you can see it. We capture video, people post videos, they share, it's all, everything they do is in the pursuit of joy. It's a celebration of something.
Well, I have a quote for you. I have today's quote for you because you gave me a quote, so I'll give you a quote back. Here is today's quote, and today's quote is, "Life is short, wear your party pants." So, there you go.
Is that your, do I ascribe that to you?
I wish. No, today's quote is Loretta LaRoche, author and stress management consultant who advocates humor, optimism, and resiliency as coping mechanisms.
I love that. I ascribe and subscribe to that. I love the whole party pants. I say that actually a lot at home. We like, get your party pants on, let's go, or talk to my boys who are in college and like, did you get your party pants on last night? And that's usually in a question to why they're dragging in the morning. So
now, Loretta LaRoche, I'm going to have to get her onto the show as well. And Tom Morris says a Hindu proverb, when you can't tell whether you're working or playing, you're doing it right.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And I've been running a clubhouse room every week on pivoting. And it came back to, I cited what Donnie had said on the show about this idea of what is a good day? What is a good day? How do you describe a good day in your life? From morning to evening. And one of the things that I said is, if you look at, so what I said to people yesterday is, if you were miserable in your job coming into this pandemic, why on earth would you return to that misery? What percentage of every day or every moment, every hour, every minute of every day in your working life would you ascribe joy to versus, I guess just going through the motions, neutral versus the exact opposite of joy? What is, by the way, what is the opposite of joy?
I would say the opposite of, to your point about, I have a big 15-year-old dog here. She's sad, so she comes in if she kind of.
Dogs are welcome on CoronaTV.
My baby. I think the opposite. Much like I don't think happiness and joy are necessarily synonymous. I don't think it's sadness. I think the opposite of joy is something truly like innate, like misery. I mean, it's for me. I think joy is such a big, powerful word that you have to have something equally as impactful to sort of create the proper opposite energy. So I think it's misery if I had to choose one.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not sadness. There's something innately, it's disgruntled. It's bitterness, maybe even. It's something that actually says the feeling that you have detracts from your life force, from others. It's a toxicity, if you will. And that's why I even went to the point, which is you don't need a special occasion, to put balloons on your mailbox. You don't.
No.
And it's hard though, because I mean, let's be honest, like every person does not wake up in a global pandemic feeling awesome.
Right. And as I have been saying lately that, starting, because I started the job at Party City just a couple of months before the pandemic. So I started in December of 19. And, the pandemic hit pretty quickly thereafter. And, I tell people it's unfortunately pandemic and party are not, they weren't necessarily horribly compatible.
There is no party-demic or pandemic. No.
No. And so because they weren't terribly compatible, we really had to be scrappy and try to lean in. And so the things that we did, I it won't make it all about the Party City work, but we created same day delivery of balloons, which by the way, why would we never have had delivery of balloons? Because if anybody's ever bought a balloon and tried to put it in their car, understands it's probably the item we most need a delivery service for, outside of maybe moving your furniture. But during the pandemic, it felt like what we wanted to try to get people to see was, a balloon is a fairly inexpensive. I mean, you can get a balloon for a couple of bucks, right? But they're all different shapes and sizes, and you can get it. And I always say, I defy you not to smile when you're handed a balloon. they're there and they last a long time. And so every day you see it. And so I kind of was hopeful that one of the ways that we could help to deliver joy in a time when people are, I think, more depressed, and we're seeing that spike, which we see it in teenagers, and especially, and we're losing that that human interface. Even though we can do this kind of thing, it's not the same as necessarily hugging somebody or having that time in the flesh. And so a balloon delivery is some way to sort of break it up and create joy in a way that it doesn't look. Candy and flowers are awesome. Everybody, I think, would enjoy that as well. They tend to be a bit more expensive, and they're a little bit more, they don't last necessarily as long. And I just think there's something unique and different about a balloon. So I'm with you. We've been trying to change the notion that balloons are only for birthdays, to balloons is something that you can do every day to put the smile on somebody's face. Truly.
So here at CoronaTV, we also engage in what we call free consulting. And so I have an idea for you,
Okay.
which is a subscription service to balloons. And in fact, my daughter's in St. Louis at college. I love the idea of just sending her a balloon or a series of balloons every Monday or every day. They can be random. They can be they can be color coded. I love the idea of a subscription service. Count me in as your first customer.
Okay.
And it could also tie in really nicely when we think about in this in the world of Uber, where so many drivers are on the sidelines. What a great way to actually deliver the balloons.
Oh, you're totally right. We talked about it actually. So it's I appreciate, and I think that it would be we could do a little test market here in the 06880 zip code and see how that works. But I agree. I
hope my wife's not watching, because she's going to be the first recipient of these a balloon a day or every Monday. So much for Monday.
Watching, right? So she's probably. So you have to now she's going to want one, right?
In South Africa, this is getting expensive for me.
We don't have party cities in South Africa. Is that where she is? Is she in Cape Town?
Yeah.
Yes. Such a great city. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll just set up a special balloon.
I like it.
Party city down there, just so that you can deliver some to her.
All right. So now I've put you into the hero position right now, and I've gone into my small little thumbnail position. But yeah, I mean, this idea of where we are in the world, where in celebrations, parties have been kind of wiped away for now, or put on the back burner. It's I mean, talk about a challenge, right? Talk about, you're like, thanks very much. I didn't sign up for this, but here you are, working for a company, and so many bricks and mortar retailers have gone through growing pains of late. The beauty of a balloon, of course, is that's not something you ever want to buy from Amazon, thank God. But then the pandemic hits, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about. I'm not necessarily saying there was a pivot or a need to pivot, but what do you do when the thing that you do is in a way has been put on pause? How do we get people to celebrate again and party, even though they're in groups of one?
I again, very much in line with your show. So I'll give you two parts. There's one part that I would call, from a marketer's perspective, or from even the corporate culture perspective, because it's certainly more than marketing. It's really the whole company operations and supply chain and merchandising. It is the will to kind of throw a little bit of caution to the wind, and choose to thrive rather than simply survive a pandemic. And again, we were a company that isn't or wasn't terribly synonymous with pandemic. So party was sort of the antichrist of what we were being told to do during the pandemic. So we had options of let's just hunker down and try to survive this thing, and instead we leaned in and we chose to really thrive during it. We set up same day delivery. We set up curbside for the first time during the pandemic. I leaned into my, you talked about my history in auto, Chrysler and at Ford. Well, you get to know, and then even I was at a private equity firm before this company, which was an automotive collision company, a body shop company. And you get to know a lot of people in the industry. And so I knew people at Hertz, and we called and said, you probably aren't running a lot of cars. Maybe, you know, kind of your point, like there's a need, and how can we, instead of thinking about ourselves, how can we partner and lean in and actually try to have something lift multiple boats? And so, you know, leverage their lack of usage of rental vehicles and their people who obviously weren't needed to actually rent the vehicles, but they could drive the vehicles and they could deliver parties for us or deliver balloons or party goods. And so we set that up, and it was super clunky and really manual, and you know, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it was the right thing to do because it's what people wanted. And we set up curbside when we were allowed to do that, when retailers were allowed to at least have that part of their business open. But from a consumer standpoint, you know, to your question about how do you then convince them to take advantage of maybe these things that we were trying to do, honestly, they were pushing us. And this is, you know, this is what makes me positive every day, is that it would be, while our duty is to try to make joy easy, it would be super depressing if you thought that nobody really cared about joy anymore, or they just were so depressed that they couldn't even get off the couch to lean into that. And the truth is that the opposite is true. I was so, you know, the majority of 2020, I was so I just in awe of the creativity and the inspiration that I took from just not only our customers, but people who are on Pinterest or Instagram posting pictures. And, you know, we decided then to lean into that. And we created a group of influencers called the Joy Squad. And they were people who were kind of party aficionados, and that they weren't necessarily a professional party planners, but they're probably like the people down the street that, you know, always put on like the best dinner party. Like they just love that, and they lean in, and it's those kinds of people. And they ended up with these beautiful ideas that we then just tried to make easy, right? That was, again, the make easy. And what I mean by that is, I've got a couple of examples for you. So birthdays, anniversaries, births, all these things happen during a pandemic, like it or not, that's, you know, life goes on. And you still want to celebrate. And so they were doing these drive-by birthdays and the birthday parades and the virtual birthday party. These are things that are very, you know, they're all part of our lexicon now. But when that was happening, it was kind of clunky for those things to occur, in that, you know, teaching people, first of all, now most people know how to use Zoom and, you know, some of these other tools, but teaching people how to do that. And then how do you host a party that's virtual? How do you get the favors? How do you create activities for people to do? The Joy Squad was creating that. And then we packaged it basically into kits, so that if you were having, you know, oh, Johnny is having a birthday party and he's got Spider-Man theme and he's going to have 6 friends. Well, we had like a kit of 6. It was sent to Johnny's home because he's, you know, hosting. And then you put the favor packages together and you drop them off in the driveways of your guests. And then you sent the digital invitation to click onto Zoom. And then we had full itineraries for your party, including free downloadable games. So it wasn't all about the commerce. It was really trying to help create an experience. There was some commerce and commercial aspect to it, yes, because some of the stuff that you would get, but it wasn't, it would have fallen flat had it just been that. And so that was the first nugget. And then it kind of rolled on to grad. And I personally leaned into that because my youngest child graduated from the high school down the road in 2020. And so, you know, we all, it's
congratulations. We have that coming up in 21.
Oh, you do? You've got to see here.
So we need to talk.
Oh, I will help you. I will help you. So I got you. So we really leaned in heavily. And what was fun, you know, the high school here, they you couldn't do the full auditorium in the gym with all the people, you know, and so they decided, well, we're going to try to do a parade. And so they organized a parade, and it was sort of by waves because there's a lot of kids. And everybody decorated their cars. They drove up. Actually, I live on the street, as we talked about, like I live on the street that's on the way to the high school. And so they were going up and down the street, and people all morning, because it was like 4 hours, because this was in waves of these parades of cars, were lined up like on the sidewalk with their masks on, waving. And then we at Party City created a bunch of balloon and car parade kits, so that you could literally buy the grad kit for your car and then put it all together on your car. It included balloons and markers and all kinds of stuff. And then we also went gangbusters on these personalized signs. So like, congratulations, for my case was Luke. And then when he was captain of the volleyball team, and we did this big volleyball, and everybody did this, and it was so fun. And I think it turned out to be far more joyous than anybody expected, because the expectations were pretty low for how grad was going to be. But what we found now, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with your daughter is up there. Did you say?
My daughter's in St. Louis in college, and then my son is a senior.
Your son. Okay. So it'll be interesting with your son, what they do, because hopefully, we'll all be able to like have a traditional grad party. But
yay, Connecticut.
Right. Yeah. Right. Woo. I won't segue too much, but you and I are going to be up for vaccines like third week of March. I know. I was like, wow, there's good and bad in being 50, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Who knew, right? Who knew?
Now I was like, what? I'm too young to be first on the list.
Life begins at 50. We didn't realize that they meant it literally, but
yeah. But I think that they're going to continue the parade, and then all the personalized signage that they had. And I don't think we're unique here where we live. I think that what we have found is that, and I think that, you can look back at least in the United States, I think, and it's probably multiple countries, like during World War II, the resilience that people gain in times of hardship permeates beyond that into the celebration of life after the fact. And a lot of those things that they learned take its own life, and they morph. And so I do hope, and in my positive way, think that we're going to see some of these things morph. And so whether it's the virtual birthday party or the grad party, or I could like the summer camp, we created all these virtual summer camps because parents were flipping out because they couldn't send their kids to school. To camp, their kids weren't in school. They had to work at home, and like, what do I do with these kids all summer? So we created these virtual camp itineraries. But all these different things, I think, have a place even in normal world, because they're just another way for us to connect and for us to show joy and celebration. And you think about the birthday and anniversary, why we hadn't thought about this years before, because even though we needed it, necessity, mother of invention for the pandemic, your mother lives in South Africa. My guess is she's not able to afford, I know your birthday's Christmas Eve, so maybe you do see her then. But I think for most people, we don't have that opportunity to fly everybody together for all of these significant, events in life. And so people miss out. Well, we now kind of have a new way to be inclusive, regardless of geography, because of some of the things that occurred during the pandemic. So anyway, it's a super long answer to your question about, what happens. I think it was a two-part, driven mostly by the world at large, of their want and demand to continuously find a reason to celebrate. And then maybe because the majority of our leadership team is brand new. We're really in transformation. And so the majority of our leadership team is less than a year. And so we, maybe out of like, it's sort of like that honeymoon phase, like out of ignorance and excitement, you lean in and kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit. And we chose to lean in with our customer. And so we did better than I think people thought we would do last year. But
I love everything you're saying. I could listen to you for hours, because the thing that I take away, and I'm just, I'm getting all geeky, because the one thing I was jotting down is JX. Forget about CX. Don't need custom experience. We need joy experience.
Oh,
and then when you think about even quantifying it, right? You can under-deliver or over-deliver, right? You can under-joy and overjoy. And so there is this expectation of an output or of a product, or there can be the delivery of this joy experience that can transcend. And, we've seen, I didn't even know that this existed, but just like we have gourmet everything, right? Gourmet donuts and gourmet cakes. There are gourmet balloon arrangements now that are just, works of art. They're like installations. And the
Right.
beauty of it is, even when the helium evaporates, or I don't know what the technical scientific term is, or dissipates,
Yeah.
you've got the Instagram photo, you've got the memory, you've got these, beautiful, colorful
Yeah.
tapestries that, by the way, can also be turned into art and oil paintings. And so what you realize is, this isn't just, I love the fact that even though we started off saying, well, it's been a tough year for retail and bricks and mortar, and now here we are talking about a reinvention, of joy. Forget about, balloons. We're talking about joy itself, and that is making me joyous.
Yeah, I love what you're saying too about so what I hear you say is what we're trying to create, which is this do-it-yourself balloon experience. Because to your point, we've been just so in awe of these major balloon installations, this creativeness that people have with putting balloon sculptures together. That's really what they are, is like balloon sculptures. So we've kind of created some grids to allow people to do that, and like those picture walls, especially for the kids when they, but they're made of balloons and you can create your own. I love the leaning into the creativity of people it's great that we have a lot of creative balloons and options and things for people to choose from, but it's, the real juice comes from people's, creation, their own creation, their personal creations. And then they become so self-invested, as you were saying, where they post their pictures, and we're actually working with Pinterest so that when people post their pictures over there, they will be able to then link to it and come to our site, and actually, either if they are just so inspired by that, and buy that bouquet that person put together, or they can take it as inspiration and create their own. And I think that that's what gets me excited, is how do we lean into the creativity, when they talk about crowdsourcing, the creativity of other people to allow expression, and then people to be able to do something beyond what we decide is cool, right? I mean, like, so we make bazillions. We actually own, most people don't know, we own, we're vertically integrated. So we own the companies, and we make about 80% of what we sell, but we own the world's largest Mylar balloon company. And so we literally can create custom balloons for people. And so that's fun and great to do, but it's more fun when people can come in and take all these different balloons we have and create something that we've never even envisioned. So we've got like, garlands and columns and things like the kind of, I would call the basic kind of creative, but the things that people do are insane with balloons, like insane.
I'm just reading some of the comments, and they're just terrific. First of all, Adam Zan says, I'm in need of a party. In the meantime, this will have to do. He might just be saying that because he's a Liverpool fan, but whatever. We can't all be perfect. And Tom Morris said, balloons delivered by drone, or wait for it, by balloon. I just blew my own mind. So that's a different kind of vertical integration. Carol Walker is here. She said, I love the birthday party parades in the neighborhoods, lots of creativity and balloons on my street. And poor Martin Albarda, I'm sure some familiar faces and names you're seeing out there, but he's talking about a disappointing, underwhelming graduation for his son last year. But hopefully, college will be better. Yeah, I mean, it has been just an incredibly challenging time. I had an amazing 50th birthday. I mean, it wasn't meant to be, because I was meant to be in South Africa with my family on a yacht. We had it all planned. And of course, nothing materialized. And we ended up doing a drive-by. My wife put together a very, very thoughtful drive-by at Compo, although it was freezing cold. But it was amazing. There were little party bags and, tiny little bottles of Patron. And it was just a great day. And I didn't want to Zoom. I just wanted to either be with my own immediate family, or in this case, I was able to be with all my family and friends, all spaced out across a very windy Compo. So there is resilience of spirit of individuals, and at a corporate level. But I was thinking, Julie, how did you celebrate your milestone?
My 50th. So yeah, so for people to when
the number.
Oh, it was, I posted it, whatever, you know, like do any of us really have any privacy or anything unknown about us? I know everybody knows everything about me. But so Campo Beach, you know, our beach here on Long Island Sound is so beautiful and pretty. My birthday was September 15th. So that's when I turned 50. Now I had a full day of work. So interestingly, I'll connect some dots for people. So I had people send me balloons because they get me, right? So I had these beautiful balloons and I had flowers. So I had that, but I had basically, because it was nice, you know, mid-September. So on my deck in the back, that's where I had set up my office most of the summer when it wasn't too hot. And I kind of stayed out there as long as I could just to have you know, if you're working from home, you may as well make the best of it. So I was outside with my flowers and my balloons all day. But that night, I know Jeffrey Hazlett is a mutual friend of ours, you know, CEO of the C-Suite. He and I met way back in the day when I was on this reality show. He was actually at Kodak then, and he was sponsoring one of our episodes. He had said over the pandemic, in addition to all the other crazy, great things he does at the C-Suite Network, he also was doing these wine tastings, these virtual wine tastings. So
right.
I think we all know, right? Jeffrey knows everybody, and he especially loves his scotch and his wine. So we appreciate that about him. And he hooked up a bunch of these winemakers in Napa and Sonoma, and then he would send out notes and say, "Look, you can join a wine tasting." And he offered like 2 nights, 2 different times each night, and you could sign up for one, and then you would order. Like they usually came with 2 or 3 bottles of wine, and they were delivered to you obviously in advance of the evening. So that night, actually, on my birthday was one of his wine tastings. And so, so my husband joined me, and we created a little charcuterie plate out in the deck out in the back, you know, with our laptop and the wine that was tasting. And he had a guest, like, so for part of the wine tasting, they open up not just only with the wine, the owners of the winery itself talking, but they actually had this couple who were musicians to sing, and they were beautiful singers, and they serenaded me with a happy birthday in the backyard. So again, not nearly what I would have thought we would have been doing. I would have gone someplace and traveled someplace, but you know, the redo party is a really big phenomenon, by the way, that we're seeing that people are going to do this year. And so I was just thinking about, I think Martin was saying, you know, they're like 3.5 years. Don't wait 3.5 years. Do a redo this year. I'm big on the +1. So I think you and I need to do a 50+1 birthday, like a big extravaganza later this year, and make it crazy. And but that's
joint party.
Yeah. Sorry, say it again.
Joint party. You want to do a joint party?
Yes. That
would be. By the way, I do want you. You should know this about me, that my 40th was twinned with a good friend of mine who lives in Wilton. And all I can tell you is it's still considered to be the party, maybe one of the top 3 parties ever in the history of Connecticut. And all I can tell you is there was a goat present. And I'm not referring to greatest of all time. There was what basically happened as a joke, a couple of his friends bought him a real goat that arrived in a pen with hay and whatever goats come with. And the thinking was that they would take it back. But he decided, I don't know, just to spite them, that he would keep the goat. So they named the goat, his name is Grant, and people call him G, and they named the goat Little G. And Little G lived with him for about 2 years, until one day he literally headbutted one of his children and, you know, knocked him for a field goal. But it was fine. The kid was fine. And they decided then it was time for Little G. I'm not going to make a joke about dinner, but Little G was adopted at a farm, at a local farm, and he's still, as far as I know, doing very well. But I promise you that if we do twin our +1 redos together, I will try. It will be goat to meeting. It will be goat to birthday. You know about goat to meeting, by the way.
Of course.
Goat
yes.
Goat to meeting.
a goats to meeting.
That's another thing completely. Talking about resilience, there was a farm, a local farm that clearly, you know, petting zoo, a whole bunch of things that were just wiped off when the pandemic hit. And so what they did is they took one of their star goats, and you could get one of their goats to basically Zoom bomb your meeting. So in the middle of a big corporate meeting or a big Zoom, suddenly this goat would just drop in and basically take over your meeting. And it became so popular at one point that there was a disclaimer saying if the goat isn't available, they reserve the right to substitute a llama or one of their other animals in. But that is a true story, goat to meeting.
That's hysterical. Oh, I love that. Who knew? That's funny. Well, I figured, I'm doing math in my head. I think you and I probably have about 100 days. It's probably almost exact, actually, between our birthdays, between mine and yours.
Probably,
and
yeah.
midway is about Halloween. So just saying.
If only we knew a place where we could get decorations.
So we could do a big Halloween party, and that could be our.
But in all seriousness, I love this idea now of again, it talks to not just resilience, but the power of reinvention and transformation. Right? You can, you know, I said this the other day that I once heard this years and years ago that people say, you know, the optimist looks at the glass half full and the pessimist half empty. But a real optimist is when the glass is completely empty and even cracked, has the belief and the faith that not only it will be full one day again, but it will be overflowing. And this idea of the, you know, redos and the plus ones, it actually just offers an opportunity for an entire wave, 1 year of joy, you know, to be delivered at a time when we need it most. And who better is positioned to take advantage of this? I wonder.
I wonder. I hope we can. Look, we've got some work to do, but I think that it's, look, we've got so many ways to reach out and help people do this, like I said, in a very easy way. And I, you know, understanding the economic hardship that many people are under, that this is, again, you've got it behind you, discount superstore. I mean, most of what we sell is extremely affordable, and a balloon, by the way, is really affordable. So I think the half birthdays were a really big thing. You know, the redo, the plus one birthdays are going to be big. The plus one everything's basically, you know, are big. I know my son who graduated, you know, when they come back for the summer, they want to do a grad party, like for real. You know what I mean? With having everybody together and just do it plus one, like the year after. So
because the reality is that what we really are talking about is not a date. It's not an arbitrary date, just like an age is so completely arbitrary. What we're talking about is and it goes in partnership with joy, is connection, is the power of human connection. That's really what's happening here, and how desperately we want to connect in person together, and do it in the way that it was, not only in the way it was meant to be, but inarguably, it can even be better. The plus one, the redo, can even be better than the original, because the expectation now is, you know, we're not dealing with disappointment. We're just dealing with bonus. We're dealing with everything now is a bonus that happens to us.
And why it may have felt like excess to some people to think about a plus one, I think because of the pandemic, that's all out the door, right? People are like, there's total permission to do that now. Nobody thinks of it as being, you know, overly introverted or excessive, because that's, you know, people get it. They missed out on something. And, you know, the stories that you had this week with your previous two guests, I mean, if those stories, I mean, you did a nice job of, I think, explaining why, even through some pretty tough conversations and tough experiences, that there's reason to be joyful and to celebrate. Is that, I mean, to come out on the other side and to, you know, having those kinds of experiences are what make you, I think, grateful for every day. And so, you know, while maybe we all have different life stories, and the pandemic has given us all a common struggle, right? Every single person on the planet has had to deal with it. And so, and in some ways, I don't want to, I'm going to say this, and I understand what I'm saying. In some ways, you know, can you see this as a blessing? Never going to see the blessing of 500,000 lives lost. And, you know, that, of course, no. but can we somehow see any of the positives that we can then take as a learning from it and make it a blessing, and that we are never going to take for granted, and that we, and I say never, things always fade over time, but can we use this as a resurgence of, again, I use the word celebration, but of just a joy of reminding of what's important in life. And it's maybe not the same things that we thought were important in life just a year ago.
Yeah, for sure. I want to just call up a few interesting comments. Seth Spark said, back to an earlier part of our conversation, that element of customers making their own balloon arrangements speaks to one of our core human drives for empowerment through creativity. Well done noticing and accommodating to that. And I saw, what else did I see here? Adam Zan said, how about a second vaccine shot shaped balloon? Might be problematic for various reasons.
Could be misused. However, so I have had this thing, actually, my husband takes credit for it. He's like, I'm the one who said that. Vaccine parties. Like, as soon as we all get vaccines, again, there should never have to be a reason for a party, but could we do a vaccine party? And so maybe we can find some sort of bent on that vaccine shaped balloon or something, that we could pull in for that.
I don't know, because I think I've developed a new category for parties, which is, and you probably have it on the drop down as well. It's just because I think we don't need a reason anymore to have a party. We just need to have parties. We need
every day reason to celebrate. I agree.
And let's be honest. I mean, the real crisis that you've had to endure, at least the brand has had to endure, because I did my research, was you can't make this stuff up. There was, I think in 2019 or 2018, there was a helium shortage. How does that even happen? How do you even have a helium? I mean, I know a lot of people that are full of I know a lot of people that are full of hot air, but this is a different. So what? There was just, how do you manufacture more helium, or what do? You just got to wait and wait for more helium.
Well, yes, we know it is part of the composition of air that we breathe. So it seems crazy that we could be in short supply of it. I mean, I get the ozone layer, but when I started, we were coming off of the helium shortage. So the helium shortage was, I think it was late 18 or 19. Again, it was predating me, but yes, you're exactly right of when it was. And so the way I learned a lot about helium production. So what I can tell you is, one, today we own our own helium wells. So we won't have to, we are now.
Wow, that really is vertically integrated.
We are now safe from that kind of issue again. But the way that so there's, helium is a naturally occurring resource, much like oil. Think about it like oil. I know that can be super polarizing, but if you think about it like oil, you basically have to mine the helium and then you have to refine it like you do with oil. There are multiple uses for helium. And so what we use is, the super cleverly named balloon grade helium, and which is a less refined, I guess, version of helium. But the other kinds of helium are used like for medical devices, like in medical lasers and things. So there is a true need. And so when, I guess, the wells were running short, it became, obviously, balloon grade helium. The excess that was used for balloon grade helium took a back seat to these more important, uses of the element. But now we have helium wells. So I think we're set for years, but yes, it was
well, I'm just going to say, if when we do our +1 redo joint party, if it comes down to our balloons or medical lasers, I hope the balloons will arrive on time. And unfortunately, those medical lasers, you're going to have to just wait it out until.
Don't worry, we have plenty of balloon grade helium now. We enough where, even although I don't think we sanctioned this at Party City, if we wanted to suck the helium out of the balloon and have karaoke with our helium voices, we could probably do that.
So I did say to you there would be no karaoke, but there might be now. Now, Steve Garfield is very troubled because he asked what reality show, and so I figure then we're going to have to show.
So what's sad about that is the amount by the way, I'm in the white skirt with my hands on my lap. So, and I say that because most people see that they're like, is that you? They put so much makeup on you for these TV shows. It's insane. We used to finish filming it and I felt like I could have taken a scraper and like scraped it off. It's crazy. Okay. Yes. So this was a super fun show that never saw the light of day, but we filmed the whole thing. So it was back in 2008. I was consulting. Had my own little marketing consulting firm, and I'd gotten a call from actually a friend of mine who was one of the producers for Mark Burnett. And his name is Sadhu Kim. He's a great guy. So I'll give him hey, Sadhu, give him a shout out. He reached out and he was like, look, we're creating a reality show called Jingles. And it's all about like the jingle, right? So who you see here is Linda Kaplan-Thaler. She's on my right. So she's the redhead. Gene Simmons needs no introduction. And I wish I could remember her name. She was the host. I think Kimberly is her name. I can't remember her last name. But she was the host. And then the three of us were judges. Linda Kaplan-Thaler owns the Kaplan-Thaler agency in New York. So an ad agency. And she and her agency were famous. She was a really smart choice for a judge for actually creating jingles. I think they created the Toys R Us jingle, I'm a Toys R Us kid. Oh, you see, here's some karaoke coming at you.
I knew it was coming, and also I think they were responsible for the Aflac duck.
Yes, I think so too. So jingles were her thing, right?
And all complaints to Linda Kaplan-Thaler for that. No, I'm kidding.
But they were all so catchy. Like, I mean, the ones that she did, you would just mention the brand and you'd sing. I mean, at least, for us growing up, like those were the commercials and the jingles were part of.
When they became part of our culture. And
huge.
For sure. Well, look, I am just relieved that you didn't say they put on, I was thinking where you were going was they put on so much makeup on us. Would you believe I'm the one in the front pointing at the, so I'm glad you didn't do that. I might have believed you.
He is amazing. So Gene is like, the stereotypes of Gene are for real, in that he is super like overt and kind of, but he's, he doesn't drink and he doesn't smoke. He always said, the girls were his vice, but he is wicked smart. When we talk about marketers, like someday if you could get him, Joseph, he was so smart. When the band Kiss started, he bought all the licensing rights. And so all the merchandise, the Kiss merchandise, and frankly, and he would be the one to tell you, the Kiss
franchise, it's visionary. It's being able to kind of understand where, to quote Wayne Gretzky, where the puck is heading. Tell Gene, by the way, that we are fully booked into the first week of June, but he's welcome to come on the show June onwards. I can't put him in, up until June, but I will make a plan. Julie, I wish there was more time to find out about, how you became a nomad living in 12 states and twice as many cities, or that Steven Tyler from Aerosmith was the first person other than your husband and doctor to know that your second son was a boy at 20 weeks. We're gonna maybe we're gonna have to carry that over into the after show, where you don't have to be witness to my terrible Photoshop. So we'll leave that. But let me tell people a little bit about you and specifically ways that they can connect with you on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. But more importantly, go to julieroehm.com where you can find out more about her. And if you needed to, you shouldn't, because it's available wherever great podcasts are subscribed to and downloaded. She has a new podcast called The Conversational as well. It has been the most awkward segue on Monday and Tuesday, and yet it produced a lot of actual natural laughs. But after everything that went on, I would turn around and go, Julie, what's the future of capitalism?
Okay, I did homework, and the best way I like to start is just to remind people what the definition of capitalism is. Okay, so here's my little homework. So capitalism is an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. Central characteristics of capitalism include capital accumulation, competitive markets, a price system, private property, and the recognition of property rights, voluntary exchange, and wage labor. Okay, so I share those things because I think that we tend to see, you know, the whole idea of capitalism is a dirty word in many cases.
By the way, I love the fact that we actually have a soundtrack to this.
It is, I know, it's so weird.
I think I'm guessing is a Skype, an incoming Skype
I
call.
don't have Skype.
Or something, but that was great. So anyway.
Soundtrack. Thank you. The soundtrack of our lives. So I think capitalism can get a dirty word because they think of it as that first part as that accumulation of profit. But I think it's the back part that we have lost sight of in that definition, which is competitive markets, the recognition of property rights, voluntary exchange, and wage labor. Look, I think everything can be taken to an extreme, but the premise of capitalism, for me at least, is something that is pure and true, and that is the foundation of our future success. Capitalism doesn't have to be selfish. So capitalism can, again, leaning into what we just talked about, can provide joy, can provide inspiration, can open up places to expand markets. So think about the do-it-yourself, the creatives, all those people out there. If we didn't have a capitalistic market, they might be forced into doing something that they didn't want to do, that they weren't getting paid a fair wage. I mean, look, again, is the world perfect? Is capitalism perfect today? No. But is the ideal of it the right one? In my opinion, yes. And I think that, again, my hope is that coming off of the pandemic, that we start to recognize again what's really, truly important, and we can sort of refocus our energies on those, I think, most important components of what makes a capitalistic society strong and healthy and actually supportive and in a growth environment.
And if we can redefine capitalism, or at least dial into the competitiveness, to embrace, to celebrate, to use the word we've been using a lot, celebrate the creatives, the new creators on these new platforms, give them a voice and give them the ability. In fact, we don't need to give them anything. They have that ability, but the mechanism, the platform, the means will allow them, a la David and Goliath, to compete and to level the playing fields. And that can only be a good thing. Julie, you did your homework in terms of 209, in terms of capitalism. This has been a joy having you on the show today. There have been a lot of surprises. If you want to hang out with Julie and myself for just a wee bit longer, all you have to do is go to bit.ly/CoronaTV after show, and that will open up our Zoom room, which you and I will get to in a moment. And as always, we end with our grand warden of Party City /CoronaTV, Mr. Chuck Norris, who will give you the final verdict. You've been on enough reality shows where that don't always end too well for the contestants, but this one will.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
Go. I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/CoronaTV after show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.